Hi everyone. My name is Michael, I'm 34. I own a small but very successful IT company that I built from scratch. I'm not from a wealthy family. My father drove a school bus his whole life. My mother was a nurse at a public hospital. Everything I have, I achieved through sweat, blood, and sleepless nights. Night shifts during college, loans, sleepless nights coding, partner betrayals. I went through it all. By 30, I had achieved a stable income that allows my family to want for nothing. A house in a prestigious neighborhood, 2 cars in the garage, a solid investment portfolio. But I was never greedy. For me, money was always just a tool. The main value was family. The one I built. I met Jessica 10 years ago. I was 24, a skinny, perpetually sleep-deprived startup guy surviving on energy drinks and vending machine sandwiches. We had a tiny office in a business center on the outskirts of Boston. She worked 1 floor up, at some PR agency, as a secretary or assistant. I never really cared. I saw her in the elevator. It sounds cliché, but it was love at first sight. She had long chestnut hair, huge brown eyes that, to me back then, seemed to radiate kindness itself, and the most genuine smile I had ever seen. She dropped a folder of papers and I helped her gather them. We started talking. Her name was Jessica. She told me she also wasn't from a rich family, that she came from a small town in Pennsylvania, was working hard, helping her mother and younger brother. She was modest, a bit shy, and didn't have a single ounce of that flashy glamour that always turned me off in other girls. We started dating. For me, she became a breath of fresh air in the concrete jungle of startups. She listened to my endless stories about servers, databases, and client problems. She didn't understand a word, but she would nod and say, "Michael, I believe in you. You've got this." When my first startup failed and I was left with debt, she didn't leave. She cooked me dinners, cheap mac and cheese, but it tasted divine, picked me up from work if I was completely out of it, and just lay silently beside me when I couldn't sleep from worry. She was perfect. 3 years later, I proposed. It was the best day of my life until recently. I rented a small boat on the lake, sunset, candlelit dinner, a violinist. The ring cost a crazy amount of money for me back then, almost $10,000. She cried, said, yes, and I felt like the king of the world. I thought, I've caught lightning in a bottle. I deserve this happiness. We got married. We started in a cramped rented 1-bedroom. Then my business took off. I landed a few big contracts, hired my first employees. 2 years later, we bought our first apartment, and another 3 years after that, we moved into the house of my dreams. White brick, a big lawn, 2 stories, a fireplace, her own studio space in the attic for Jessica. I wanted her to have everything. I told her, Jess, honey, you don't have to work. Focus on yourself, the house, your hobby. She quit the agency. She had a talent for painting, watercolors, oils. I set up a fantastic studio for her. The best easels, paints from Europe, canvases of all sizes. She would spend hours up there, and I loved just watching her from the doorway. She mostly painted landscapes and abstracts. I hung her paintings in the office, showed them off to partners. I thought we had an ideal life. Our home was always perfect. Clean, cozy, fresh baked goods on weekends. She'd greet me after work with a kiss and a glass of whiskey. We traveled. Europe, the Caribbean, the Maldives, Japan. We laughed, talked all night long, made plans for the future. I'd look at her and think, God, thank you for this miracle. Every night, lying in bed, I'd look at her and think, man, how did I get so lucky? I've truly been blessed. There was only one, but we had trouble conceiving for a long time. We went to doctors, took tons of tests. Medicine shrugged. You're both fine. Just needs time. Jessica was very upset. I'd see her watching other people's kids in the park, getting sad when she saw a diaper ad. Sometimes I'd wake up at night and hear her quietly crying into her pillow. I'd comfort her, we'll manage. There's IVF, there's adoption. I love you, I don't care how our child comes to us. As long as it's yours. And then a miracle happened. 3 years ago, she got pregnant. I remember that day like it was yesterday. I came home from work early because I forgot some documents. Jessica came out of the bathroom holding that little white pregnancy test. She was crying and laughing at the same time. I scooped her up in my arms, spun her around the bedroom. We were both yelling like crazy people. I literally carried her around. Bought her anything she wanted. Strawberries in winter for insane money? Sure. Massage every day? The best specialist in the city. The birth? A private room, the best doctor, a personal nurse for the baby for the first 3 months. Noah was born, my son. When I first held him in my arms, that tiny red creature with little fists, I forgot how to breathe. I looked at him and saw my eyes, my mom's nose shape. Or so I thought. I vowed that this boy would never know want. That he would grow up in love and care. I spent the first 3 months with him almost non-stop, taking work home just to be nearby. After Noah was born, I worked even harder. I wanted to secure their future so they'd never lack anything. I often stayed at the office until late, brought work home, went on business trips. But I always tried to carve out time for them. I loved this ritual. Coming home tired, going into the nursery, kissing sleeping Noah on his warm little head, breathing in his scent. Then going down to the kitchen where Jessica would be warming up dinner for me. An ideal life. My holy trinity. Work, wife, son. But something started to change about a year ago. Jessica became distant. She'd go out, on errands, more often, to a friend across town, to yoga, to some painting courses. I didn't think much of it. She was entitled to personal space. She started spending more time on her phone, giggling at messages. When I asked what was funny, she'd say, "Oh, Emily sent another cat meme. Honey, you wouldn't get it." Sometimes she'd quickly turn her phone screen down when I entered the room. I chalked it up to my paranoia. "Mike, relax, she's just texting her girlfriends." There was another person in our life, her childhood friend, Kyle. He'd pop up in conversations periodically. She said they grew up in the same neighborhood in Pennsylvania, that he was like a brother, that they'd been through a lot together. I'd seen him a few times at big family holidays, Thanksgiving, a couple of birthdays. A regular guy, slightly shorter than me, with perpetually messy hair, working as a car mechanic at some garage. He was quiet, withdrawn, didn't say much. Jessica was nice to him, but in a friendly way. A pat on the shoulder, asking about work, his mom. It never bothered me. Everyone has friends from their past. For the last 3 months or so, Jessica had been cold in bed. She'd look away, complain of tiredness, migraines. I understood. A small child, housework, it's tough. I tried to help even more. I bathed Noah myself, got up with him at night, drove them shopping, ordered food, hired a cleaner to make things easier for her. I thought it was just a rough patch that all couples with little kids go through. Just need to be patient, get through it. 3 days ago, Noah had a fever. Not high, but still. I had left for important negotiations with potential investors from New York. I was a wreck. I kept texting Jessica. "How is he? Take his temperature. Call the doctor if anything." She replied tersely, "Everything's fine. Don't worry. Focus on work." The meeting ended earlier than planned. The investors flew back, and I decided not to return to the office but to go home and check on them. On the way, I bought a huge bouquet of peonies, her favorite, and a box of her favorite macarons from that French bakery she liked. I pulled into the garage. Her car was there. Good, so they're home. I unlocked the door with my key, walked through the entryway. Silence. Strange. Usually, the TV or music is on. I put the flowers in a vase in the kitchen, poured myself a glass of water, called out, "Jess? I'm home. I'm early." Silence. Maybe they're out in the yard? I looked out the window. The backyard was empty. No swing was still. Weird. I went upstairs to the nursery. The crib was empty. Neatly made, toys put away in a box. My heart skipped a beat. I walked towards our bedroom. The door was ajar, and then I heard the sounds. They weren't the sounds of cleaning or talking. They were sounds I will never forget. Muffled, rhythmic, wet. Stifled moans. The creak of the bed. A man's whisper. The world stopped. I stood frozen, gripping the doorknob. My brain refused to process the information. No, this can't be happening. I must be hearing things. I pushed the door open. The image I saw is burned into my retina. My wife, the mother of my child, was on her hands and knees on our bed, gripping the headboard. Behind her, gripping her hips, stood Kyle. Her childhood friend, the car mechanic, the brother. Her eyes were closed, her mouth slightly open, her face a picture of pure, unadulterated pleasure. She was wearing my favorite silk pajamas, the ones I gave her last Christmas, sky blue silk, embroidered at the collar. Only the pajamas were hitched up around her waist. I just stood and watched. Seconds stretched into hours. I saw Kyle flinch, freeze. Then Jessica opened her eyes and looked towards the door. Her face, it wasn't my wife's face. It was a mask of horror. Genuine, primal terror. She squealed, jerked, tried to cover herself with the sheet. Kyle recoiled, stumbled over the bed, nearly fell. On his face, I saw not fear, but annoyance. The annoyance of someone interrupted mid-process. The silence lasted an eternity. "Michael," she breathed. "Michael, it's not what you think." I wanted to scream. I wanted to tear them apart with my bare hands. But instead, I heard my own voice, calm, foreign, icy. "Oh yeah? Rehearsing for a school play?" Kyle started frantically pulling on his jeans, tangling in the legs. "Listen, man," he rasped. "Shut up," I cut him off. My voice sliced the air like a knife. "If you're not out of my house in 3 seconds, I'll kill you. Right here. And bury you in the garden, under the apple tree we planted when Noah was born. You have 2 seconds." He flew out of the room without even tying his laces. I heard him crash down the stairs, heard the front door slam. We were alone. Jessica sat on the bed, wrapped in the sheet, trembling. Tears streamed down her face. Real, big, salty tears. She reached a hand out to me. "Michael, forgive me. I'm sorry. It was a mistake, an accident, just once." I don't know what came over me. I sat down in the armchair opposite the bed. The same chair I'd sometimes sit in at night when Noah couldn't sleep, just watching her sleep. I took out my phone, placed it face down on my lap, and started the voice recorder. I don't know why I did it. Instinct. Something clicked in my head. This is all wrong. Her tears are wrong. Her words are wrong. 10 years, Jessica, I said. 10 years. And this is, just once. She sobbed louder, covering her face with her hands. I continued. I gave you everything. A house. A car. Freedom. A studio. Travel. I loved you like I've never loved anyone. I lost sleep so you and Noah could have everything. For what? So you could screw some garage mechanic in our bed? She suddenly stopped crying, lifted her eyes to me. And in those eyes, there was no remorse. There was tiredness, anger, and a strange resolve. "You're right, Michael," she said quietly. "You gave me everything, except yourself." I was stunned. "What? I was always there. You were there?" Her voice grew stronger, steel creeping in. "You slept at the office. You brought work home. You saw me as a pretty picture, a housewife, the mother of your son. You thought buying me an expensive car and a studio would make me happy. But you never asked what I wanted. What was inside me. You never saw me, Michael. You only saw your own perfect image. So you decided to sleep with Kyle so I'd notice you?" I couldn't believe my ears. "No," she shook her head. "Because with him, I can be myself. He doesn't need my paintings, my efforts. He needs me." "How long has this been going on?" I asked, gripping the arms of the chair. She was silent. "Jessica, I'm asking you. How long?" "Forever," she breathed. "What do you mean, forever?" "We never broke up, Michael. Kyle and me, we were together before you. And we stayed together after." My world flipped. The floor dropped out from under me. How is that possible? 10 years? You lived with me, slept with me, told me you loved me, and all this time. I loved him, yes, all these years. You were, how should I put it, our sponsor. The word hit me like a punch to the gut. Sponsor, not husband, not beloved, sponsor. And the child? My voice cracked. Noah? Is he? She looked away, and in that moment, I knew everything. Before she even opened her mouth. "Noah isn't yours, Michael." I jumped up from the chair. "No." "Yes," she cowered, but her voice was firm. "We couldn't get pregnant for so long. The doctors said you were fine, but nothing happened. Kyle and I decided to have a backup plan. I calculated the days, and it worked." I froze. The room spun. "You're saying, you got pregnant by him so I'd think it was my child?" "Yes." I fell back into the chair. I was shaking. Why? "So you would provide for us," she spoke calmly, matter-of-factly, like discussing the weather. "So Noah would have everything. So we would have money. Kyle can't earn much, and I wanted to live well. You gave us that life. We were just waiting. Waiting for what? For Noah to get a little older. For me to leave you for Kyle and get alimony from you. Good alimony. Plus part of the property. We would have been set. Kyle was tired of hiding. I was tired of pretending. A few more years and we would have come clean." "Come clean," I repeated like in a dream. "You were going to come clean about using me for 10 years. You're to blame yourself, she said, suddenly harsh. You were so naive, so convenient. You believed everything I said. You didn't check, you didn't get jealous, you didn't pry. You just worked and brought in money. The perfect husband. I threw up. Right there, on the carpet. Bile and coffee. I was being wrung out from the inside. And the picnic last Sunday? I asked, wiping my mouth. When we sat on the grass, and you talked about how happy you were. And Noah was running around, and I was catching him? You smiled at me for the camera? Kyle was sitting in his car across the street, she smirked. We were texting. I wrote to him. Look at this sucker running around with your son. We were laughing. I stood up, slowly, like a 100-year-old man. Walked to the door. Michael, wait, she jumped off the bed. Where are you going? Let's talk like adults. We can make a deal. You don't want a scandal. Think of your reputation, your business. I turned around. Are you threatening me? I'm just suggesting we settle this quietly. You give me money, I leave quietly. No one will ever know you raised another man's child. You save face. I looked at her, at this woman I'd loved for 10 years. Shared a bed, dreams, a life with. And I saw nothing. Emptiness. I left. I ran out of the house, got in my car, and drove. I don't remember getting to this parking lot. I just drove and screamed. Screamed until I lost my voice. Pounded the steering wheel. Pulled over on the shoulder and sobbed. It's 4 a.m. now. I'm sitting in my car in a 24-hour supermarket parking lot. My phone is blowing up. Hundreds of missed calls. Hundreds of messages. First from her. Come back, let's talk. Then from Kyle. Dude, don't be rash. Let's settle this like men. Then from her again. Michael, don't be a fool. You don't want a court case. I have rights. I'm the mother of your child. My child, who isn't mine. I don't know what to do. I'm 34. I have a successful business. I had a house, a wife, a son. Now I have nothing, because it was all a lie. A 10-year, elaborate, professional lie. I was used as an ATM, a sponsor, a convenient fool. I don't know how to live anymore. A week has passed, the longest week of my life. I didn't go home, got a hotel room. My friend, who's also my lawyer, Dan, came to see me that same evening. I told him everything. He said, you're an idiot for not recording the conversation, but we'll figure something out. I replied, I did record it, and showed him the voice memo on my phone. Dan whistled. Mike, you're a genius. That's rock solid. We made a plan. The next morning, I filed for divorce. Grounds: adultery and fraud. The recording is key evidence. I also filed a petition to disestablish paternity and demanded a DNA test. Dan says with that recording, Jessica doesn't stand a chance. But it's going to be a long battle. The hardest part is Noah. I love that little boy. I spent sleepless nights with him. I changed his diapers. I taught him to walk. I bought him toys. I read him stories. He calls me daddy. And now I have to take a DNA test to prove he's not mine. It tears my heart out. Dan said, Mike, you have to do this. Otherwise, she'll get child support from you for this kid until he's 18. You'll be supporting her and Kyle's family. I understand, but it doesn't make it easier. I blocked all her credit cards. Cut her off from our joint accounts. The house is temporarily sealed by court order so she can't remove belongings, but I know she's living with Kyle. Kyle, by the way, quit his mechanic job. I guess he thinks he's a big shot now. The worst part is, I haven't seen Noah in a week. I miss him physically. I dream about his laugh, his little hands reaching for me. I wake up and realize I may never see him again. Or I'll see him, but as a stranger. Dan says after the DNA results, I'll have no rights. Even if I wanted to fight for custody, my chances are zero. He's not biologically mine, and she's the mother. Even if she's a monster, the law is on her side. I started seeing a psychologist. Dr. Harris, a good specialist. He said, Michael, you're going through multiple traumas. Betrayal, loss of identity, loss of a child. It's tough, but you'll get through it. I don't know if I will. A month has passed. A month of hell. The DNA test confirmed it. I am not Noah's father. 0% match. I knew it would be, but when I saw that official document with the seal, I threw up right in the lawyer's office. Jessica and Kyle are now living together openly. Rented some cheap apartment on the outskirts. They're obviously short on money. She tried texting me, Michael, please help Noah. He needs proper things. You love him. I didn't reply. I can't. If I start helping, it will never end. The divorce property settlement is still ongoing. My recording played a key role. The judge was shocked hearing her calmly talk about 10 years of deception. Jessica cried in court, said it was a moment of weakness, that she loved me, that Kyle was just a friend. But the recording was damning. Dan says we have a good chance of leaving her with the bare minimum. The best she can hope for is compensation for years of homemaking. But the house stays with me, and I already got the car back through court, as it was a gift obtained through fraud. I'm selling the house. I can't live there. Every room screams betrayal. I couldn't even go into the nursery. It still smelled of Noah. I bought a small apartment downtown, overlooking the river. A fresh start. Work saves me. I've thrown myself into it. I sleep 4 hours a night, but it's better than lying there staring at the ceiling. 3 months have passed. The trial is almost over. A ruling is expected next week, but Dan already knows the judge is leaning our way. Jessica will get a small settlement for the marriage years, about 50 grand, and that's it. No house, no car, no alimony. Assets acquired before the marriage, which is most of my business, stay with me. I hear things aren't good with her and Kyle. Without my money, life is hard. Kyle found a job at another garage, but the pay is peanuts. Jessica tried selling her paintings online, but apparently without success. Honestly, I don't feel sorry for them. Let them live as they deserve. The strangest thing is, I'm starting to feel relief. Yes, it hurts. Yes, the scars will remain forever. But I came out of that nightmare. I realized I'm stronger than I thought. Yesterday, for the first time in a long time, I smiled. I was sitting in a coffee shop, drinking a latte, watching people. The world didn't end. The sun still shines. Life goes on. I still miss Noah. Sometimes at night, I think I hear his laugh. I hope he'll be okay. I hope he doesn't repeat his mother's fate. I started going to the gym. I run along the river in the mornings. Healthy sleep, healthy food. The psychologist says I'm making progress. 6 months have passed. Final update, I guess. The trial is over. Just like Dan said, Jessica got her 50 grand and that was that. I sold the house. Bought an apartment. I live alone, but I'm comfortable. I heard about them through the grapevine. They split up. Yeah, can you believe it? Not even a year, and the love of her life fell apart. Without money, without the good life, without prospects, their great love evaporated. Jessica, I hear, moved back to Pennsylvania, to her mother. Kyle stayed in Boston, drinking, I think. I don't care. Noah, I think about him sometimes. But without that sharp pain anymore. I hope he's okay. I hope he grows up to be a good person, unlike them. Things are looking up for me. I met a girl. Her name is Rachel. She works at a bookstore I wandered into. We started talking about books, then had coffee, then more coffee. She doesn't know about my past, and I like that she sees me just as Michael, not as a wallet. She's kind, genuine, funny. I'm afraid to trust, but I'm trying. Life goes on. I survived. That's the main thing. I've erased those 10 years from my life. They were a mistake, a virus. But I survived. Take care of yourselves, and don't be as blind as I was. Love shouldn't be blind. It should be clear-sighted and honest.